He sat at the corner table and ordered a beer. He did not lean forward. He did not scan the room with expectation. He just sat there, hands resting lightly on his knees, watching the ceiling fan turn. She was standing 10 feet away, adjusting a glass menu that did not need adjusting. When she looked over her shoulder, she did not rush to him. She finished what she was doing, smoothed her shirt, and walked to the table with a pace that matched the quiet of the room. She smiled as she approached. He smiled back, thinking it was a personal invitation. It was an opening, yes, but not in the way he assumed. I have watched this exact movement 1,000 times across a dozen cities. The smile is real. It is also entirely professional. In Thailand, courtesy is not a mask hiding a transactional intent. Courtesy is the architecture of the exchange itself. The warmth you receive at the door is genuine, even when it is part of a job. The mistake foreign men make is treating professional warmth as personal surrender. They believe the smile means she has already chosen them. What it actually means is she has decided to give you 3 minutes to see if you deserve more. She poured water into his glass without asking. She noticed the way he held his shoulders, the slight forward tilt of fatigue that comes from traveling long hours, the absence of the loud performance she sees from the tourists half his age. She asked where he was from, where he was staying, whether the heat was too much yet. He answered slowly. He did not interrupt her. He asked about her shift, whether it was exhausting, whether the customers were difficult tonight. She said yes, it was tiring. Yes, they were difficult, but tonight was quieter. He nodded. He did not push. Within 2 minutes, she had already recalibrated her entire approach. The younger men who came through earlier had treated her like a stage they needed to command. They bought drinks they did not drink, laughed too loud at things she did not say, and checked their phones while pretending to listen. They were here for conquest, and they broadcast it with every gesture. He was here for conversation. She could feel the difference in the air. It is not complicated for her. It is a matter of energy conservation. She gives performance to performance. She gives presence to presence. An older Western man who sits quietly, who listens without trying to win, who asks real questions and actually waits for the answer, that man cuts through the noise instantly. She does not need to decode him. She reads him in the first breath. 2 men can sit at the same bar on the same evening and walk away with 2 completely different memories of the exact same woman. One man will tell his friends she was impossible to get close to. The other will tell his friends she opened up to him in ways he did not expect. Neither story is false. They are just describing 2 different rooms happening in the same physical space. The bar girl system exists in a specific cultural framework that most foreigners treat as a loophole. They see the financial transaction and assume everything else follows the same logic. They are wrong. The transaction covers the setting. It does not cover the connection. When a man pays for a drink, he is buying time in a shared space. What happens inside that time belongs entirely to the dynamic between 2 people. I have sat across from women who work in this environment and listened to them describe the exact moment they realize a man will not be another exhausting encounter. It comes when he stops trying to impress her and starts trying to know her. It comes when he treats the setting as neutral ground rather than a stage for his own validation. The gap between what men think is happening and what is actually happening is not hidden. It is just ignored because the truth requires a different approach than they came prepared for. He came back the following week. He did not bring a gift. He did not try to negotiate anything. He just asked for the same table and waited until she had a break between groups. When she sat down, he told her he had spent the afternoon walking through the local market. He had gotten lost. He had laughed at himself for it. She laughed too, genuinely, because the story had been told without performance, without the underlying tension of someone trying to prove they belong here. She told him about her aunt who runs a noodle stall near the river, how she helps during festivals, how the smoke makes her clothes smell like fish sauce for days. He did not romanticize it. He did not pity it. He just listened, asked how long the shift lasted, asked if her hands got tired, asked if her aunt still makes the same recipe her grandmother used. She paused before answering. That pause is what most men miss. That pause is the exact moment the professional boundary thins, not because money changed hands, but because respect replaced expectation. She decided right then that he could be spoken to honestly. It is a rare thing. It is not given to tourists. It is given to guests. Sanuk is a concept foreigners love to repeat because it sounds pleasant and carefree. They think it means constant entertainment. It does not. It means finding ease in the moment, creating lightness so the weight of daily life does not crush everyone carrying it. In a nightlife setting, Sonic looks like laughter, quick conversation, playful teasing. It is real while it lasts. But confusing Sonic with genuine personal attraction is a fundamental error that costs men more than they realize. The laughter is real. The warmth is real. The desire for a pleasant interaction is real. But it is contextual. A Thai woman understands that a good evening does not automatically become a lifelong commitment. The man who assumes otherwise will eventually feel deceived. The woman who offered nothing but a good evening will eventually feel exhausted. Older men tend to read this more accurately, not because they are wiser by age, but because they are tired of games. They do not need the night to validate them. They need the night to feel human. That difference is everything. I have been watching this dynamic play out for years, and the gap between what most men experience in Thailand and what is actually available to them, that gap is not small, it is enormous. I wrote a guide that closes it completely. It is called From Hello to Her Bed. 10 chapters. Everything from the first message to the first night and beyond. What works, what destroys it, what most men never figure out. It is in the pinned comment. If you are serious about understanding what is actually in front of you here, take 30 seconds and read what it covers. The transition from a bar conversation to a normal life dynamic is where most encounters collapse. And the reason is never money or geography. It is pacing. A woman who spends her evenings negotiating attention, reading moods, managing expectations, moves at a deliberate speed the moment the setting changes. She will agree to coffee. She will agree to a walk. She will agree to share a meal away from the music and the neon. But she will test the consistency of the man who invited her, not with games, with silence, with time. She watches to see if the attention remains steady when the financial context is removed. Young Western men often fail this test because they interpret the shift to daytime as permission to accelerate. They think the absence of a drink bill means the absence of boundaries. They arrive early, they over-explain. They try to secure the next step before the current one has settled. An older man who has lived through enough failed dynamics understands that trust is not claimed. It is accumulated. He lets the morning meeting breathe. He does not try to define it. He simply shows up, sits down, and lets the conversation find its own shape. That patience is magnetic. It is also extremely rare. He took her to a cafe on the main road on a Sunday. It was loud with locals buying morning coffee and pastries. She ordered in Thai without looking at the menu. She did not perform for him. She just existed, and he allowed it. He asked about her brothers, whether they called her from Bangkok or stayed in the province. She told him they stayed. She told him she sent money for their mother's medical bills, that she hated the system but understood the obligation, that sometimes she dreamed of opening a small laundry service so she could sleep past midnight and wake before dawn. He did not offer to pay for her problems. He did not promise her a future she could rely on. He just said the laundry service sounded like good work, and he asked about the neighborhood where she would open it. She looked at his hands on the table. She noticed he was not trying to reach across. He was letting her decide where to sit, what to say, how much to share. She felt something she rarely felt in this context. It was the absence of demand. It is the most attractive quality she encounters from older Western men. Not money, not charm. The willingness to occupy a space without insisting she fill it with what he wants to hear. The reality of the bar system is far simpler than the mythology surrounding it. The arrangement exists because both sides understand it is temporary by design. The fine is not a purchase, it is permission. It covers the time, the environment, the removal of workplace constraints. Beyond that, everything operates on the same human rules that govern any relationship anywhere in the world. The men who treat it like a contract will always find themselves arguing about deliverables that were never guaranteed. The men who treat it like an introduction will find themselves walking alongside someone who actually wants to be there. I have seen the same woman sit with 3 different men on 3 consecutive nights. One left angry because she did not smile enough during the taxi ride. One left satisfied because she agreed to stay for breakfast. One left thinking nothing at all because they simply talked about books until the sky lightened. All 3 paid the exact same fee. None of them bought the same outcome. The fee buys the room. It does not buy the connection. That part is earned through behavior that aligns with how Thai women actually experience safety, respect, and genuine interest. She told me once why she preferred older foreign men when the opportunity presented itself naturally. She said younger men carried expectation like a weapon. They wanted the experience to validate them. They wanted to leave with a story they could edit. Older men, she said, just wanted to leave feeling understood. The difference matters because it changes how she breathes during the interaction. When she breathes easier, she speaks more honestly. When she speaks honestly, she reveals more. She reveals the fatigue she hides behind the uniform. She reveals the pride she feels in her work because it supports people she loves. She reveals the quiet ambition she never talks about with customers. She reveals the exact moment she decided she stopped trying to impress and started trying to be real. That moment never comes on command. It arrives when a man sits with his own calm long enough for hers to emerge. It is not romantic in the cinematic sense. It is profound in the human sense. The guide I mentioned earlier, From Hello to Her Bed, covers exactly this. Not theory, the actual moves, the actual signals, the actual moments where men either get it right or lose it completely. It is $14. The link is pinned at the top of the comments. The men who read it before they arrive are operating on completely different information than everyone else in the room. He did not rush her. He did not assume the coffee meeting meant anything other than presence. He returned the following week to the same table. He brought a small notebook because he liked writing observations. She sat with him and asked what he was writing. He showed her a line about the sound of the rain on the corrugated roofs near the market. She laughed quietly and said it sounded exactly like sleeping on a tin porch during monsoon season. She told him about her childhood village in Isan, how the roads turned to red mud after the storms, how her father used to fix motorbikes with wire and patience, how she learned early that survival is just repetition done carefully. He listened. He did not interrupt with advice. He did not try to fix her history. He just absorbed it. That absorption is what builds the foundation men mistake for instant compatibility. Instant compatibility is an illusion built by shared excitement. Real compatibility is built by shared quiet. She felt it in that cafe. She felt it when he asked about her hands and did not look away from the answer. She felt it when he treated her tiredness as a normal part of being alive, rather than a problem she needed to apologize for. Tourist mistakes in this environment are almost never malicious. They are misunderstandings born of cultural translation failure. A foreign man buys a drink because he thinks generosity is a universal language. It is, until it becomes pressure. He touches her shoulder because he thinks physical closeness signals warmth. It does, until it signals claim. He asks for her number on the first night because he thinks momentum is the same as connection. It is not. Thai women navigate this daily. They do not resent the attempts. They just adjust their energy accordingly. The ones who stay are the ones who stop treating Thailand like a stage for their unmet needs and start treating it like a place where real people live, work, sleep, and dream. The ones who leave frustrated are the ones who brought a script instead of bringing themselves. I have sat across from women who can tell you exactly when a man crossed from curious to demanding. It never happens with sudden volume. It happens with subtle entitlement, the expectation that her time belongs to him because he paid for the environment, the assumption that her kindness means her boundaries are negotiable, the belief that foreign status elevates him above local social rules. Those assumptions collapse the moment they meet a woman who understands her own worth and is not afraid to withdraw it. He walked out of the bar that final evening and did not look back because there was nothing left to negotiate. They had agreed to meet at the park the next morning, not as a continuation of the bar system, as two people who had found common ground and wanted to walk around it in daylight. She would wear plain clothes instead of a uniform. He would carry nothing except a bottle of water and the quiet that had drawn her to his table in the first place. The dynamic had shifted completely, not because of money, not because of promises, because two adults had chosen to treat each other as real. That choice is available to anyone who enters this space with eyes open, expectations calibrated, and the patience to let connection reveal itself instead of forcing it into a shape that fits a fantasy. I have watched this happen enough times to know it is not rare. It is just overlooked by people who believe attraction should be immediate, obvious, and loud. It is none of those things. It is slow. It is quiet. It is real. The truth is simpler than the industry built around it. Thai women are not waiting to be won. They are waiting to be recognized. The ones who recognize them are the ones who stay. The rest keep moving, repeating the same patterns, collecting the same quiet rejections, telling themselves the same stories about why it did not work. I know what she was thinking when he sat down. I know what she felt when he asked a question and waited for the answer without checking his watch. I know the exact weight of the relief when a man stops performing and starts listening. That relief is the foundation of everything that follows. It is not about age. It is about presence. It is about the difference between using a country as a backdrop for your own loneliness and sharing a moment with someone who happens to live here. The men who understand that difference do not struggle in Thailand. They simply walk in, sit down, and let the space meet them halfway. And when the right woman sits beside them, she does not smile out of duty. She smiles because she finally has the chance to speak without being heard as a performance. That is the moment the noise stops. That is where everything real begins.